The CDX ExchangeBuilder registry provides an extensive composer interface for users to design and develop exchanges based on standard XML vocabularies. Access to these value-based assets is through an independent repository. The CDX repository provides your organization with an information exchange development sandbox that accesses and manages prepackaged and reusable registry objects, self-created business objects, exchange payload products, auto-generated design time and runtime artifacts, and tools to collect and register metadata about your exchange use cases. One of the major parts of an information exchange is defining the exchange payload. The repository provides a composition function for building payload products that can contain objects from the registry. An agency can also create their own unique collection of business objects through the repository object management function. Through the selection and association of the domain and user-augmented objects, products are composed to be used as exchange payloads. To illustrate how ExchangeBuilder assists in exchange payload product composition, let's use a simple example of a query and response exchange. In the example, a person query and an activity response. Law enforcement staff will be able to search for people that are related to activities, such as bookings and warrants, that are contained in the county's information system. First, the law enforcement system will create an online process that will allow a user to input query search parameters, things like person's last name, first name, race, sex, and date of birth. Note, too, that the freckle shape is a unique element to this use case and is not part of a normal person query. The county system finds persons that match the search parameters and also returns the activities associated with the person. The response includes each matching person and related activity associated with the person. We see now, in the response, we also have data about social security number, height, weight, and other physical descriptors, along with event activity data involving the subject of the query. Within the repository, there's a place to manage products under Exchange Management. A list of existing products are displayed. To compose our product for the example, we will add a new product, Record. We will create a product for the person query first. The user can provide a meaningful business name and description for the new product. The composition palette, the center pane, is where the product will be composed. The object section, or left panel, contains all the possible registry and repository objects that are available to drag and drop into our composition. The element inspection area on the right panel provides an area for selection of elements related to the objects added to the composition, and also provide information about the object themselves. Let's get started. Here, we'll begin to compose the person query product. We are going first to the object section area and search for send. Since send is an action, we select the send object within the action group and drag it into the composition. Next, we search for activity to obtain date information. We select activity from the entity group, drag it under send, and see what elements are contained in activity. From the element selection area, we check occurrence date and time to capture when the person query was sent to the county system. Next, we want to capture the search parameters. We conduct a keyword lookup and select search parameters from the roles group. Next, we want to capture our person search parameters. We search for objects for person and select the person from the entities group and add the collection to our search parameters. Next, we select the race and sex text elements and the date of birth from the elements contained in the person entity object. Now, we add the person name search items by selecting the person name entity and dragging it under the person in the composition. We select last name and first name from the optional elements. Since the person freckle shape is something unique and created by this domain, and therefore not contained in the registry, the element is contained in a repository item called Person Augmentation. That item is selected and moved under Person, and the unique element is selected. Now we want to apply some business rule on the element and objects. First, we make sure that when a query is sent, it has the person search criteria. By right-clicking on an item listed in the tree, it opens a function box, and one of those functions is Edit Rules. The Rules panel opens, and we can now see that the person information is required. We also want to make sure that the last name of a person is required. We will change its business rules to make it required. The composition process has been completed, and it can be saved for the person query product. After saving and storing our new person query composition, we see it now on our list of available products. As a test, we can reopen the product and see that the form and format of the composition is complete. We have completed the first Exchange payload products for the person query, and now let's create one for the person query and activity response. Just like the first product we created, we add the new product object for the person query and response. The Exchange payload is required to contain the original query parameters. We can make sure that that response has the same structure as the query by selecting the person query product and moving it into the composition. Next, we'll move the person search parameters from our existing query product into our new product. We now build our response to the query along with an occurrence state, just like we did for the original query. To demonstrate component reusability, we're going to rely on our product components that ensure that entity information is consistent across Exchange products. Here we're going to use the person data group product to structure our response. When the group product is moved into the composition, it includes a structure for a person that is considered the required business standard for a particular agency or domain. The user can remove the objects not needed for this product composition. This assures that every time person is represented in a product, it will be a constant across domain exchanges. Finally, we add the activities associated with the person by adding the activity entity, and again selecting the elements of those activities that are relevant to the desired search results. And, similarly, we change the business rules so that a person can have many associated activities. When completed with our design edits, we click on Finished to record this composition into the repository. And just as before, we now see both the person query and our new person query and response compositions available for next steps in the design and implementation process.